Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So, we got guys an update on a significant severe weather and tornado outbreak that we're expecting to occur across portions of the Central Plains and the Midwest. We're talking about a big-time tornado threat as well as a very significant damaging wind and large hail threat. I've got all the details coming right up. So, thank you for joining me here on this Sunday evening. We have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to be giving you guys the full breakdown of what you can expect for tomorrow's event. But I will say before we start this video is that it is a very, very tricky forecast, as the models are kind of showing a much less intense scenario as what the SPC and forecasters there are saying could happen. So we're going to try to break this down as best as possible. I'm going to try to make it as easy and simple as possible so that you guys can kind of understand what you can expect for tomorrow. So we're going to start out here by taking a look at your current radar. So we take a look here, you can see we do have already a surface low that is moving across portions of the north-central United States, producing some very strong thunderstorms here, some severe thunderstorms into portions of Nebraska, the Dakotas, Wyoming, and Montana. I did just get done with a live stream for severe weather coverage where we did have a giant, likely 1.5 to 2 mile wide wedge tornado in central Nebraska, so that was pretty insane stuff. But that just shows you how potent these environments are for severe weather that we're talking about today and tomorrow. But you can see we also do have some pop-up showers and thunderstorms here across portions of the deep south into the southeast here. These have been localized, non-severe to just barely severe there. So again, just make sure that you are keeping an eye on the weather as you head off to bed tonight, as those storms could definitely pose a slight damaging wind and large hail threat. But really, that's pretty much it for as of right now. So we move on here to the Storm Prediction Center. We take a look at their Day 2 outlook. This is our outlook for tomorrow. You can see we have a moderate level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather, including portions of western Wisconsin into portions of southern and central Minnesota down into northern Iowa. So again, this is a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk for severe weather. This includes Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota, Bloomington, Minnesota, Plymouth, Minnesota, and La Crosse, Wisconsin there, okay? So, very populated area here that's currently under the gun for severe weather tomorrow at about 5.5 million people included in that moderate risk. But you can see also an enhanced risk surrounding that for portions of the upper Midwest into the Central Plains there, extending all the way down to the Kansas City metro area. So if anyone's in that orange shade, that's a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk. And then we have our, in our yellow shade, our slight, and then in our green shade, our marginal risk. Again, level 2 and level 1 out of 5 risks for those surrounding areas. So again, big time, severe weather outbreak is looking very possible, as we do have a huge area that's under the gun for severe weather. But we look at our probabilities here, and if we start out with our tornado threat, you can see we have a 15% hatch tornado threat, so that means that we have a significant chance of seeing EF2 to EF5 tornadoes within 25 miles of any given location inside that 15% hatched area, okay? So that's going to be covering all of our moderate risk area, and then you can see also our 10% hatched area, also including all of our enhanced risk. So this is a very large swath here of significant chances and probabilities here to see tornadoes. So this kind of shows you guys how real the chances of seeing a tornado outbreak are for this area tomorrow. But you can see we also do have a pretty broad 5% extending all the way down here to central Oklahoma. So again, very, very broad area there. With that 5% tornado threat, and then finally the 2% threat going all the way up from the Great Lakes down through again the Midwest and into portions of northern Texas there. So I just really want to hammer home how big this area is going to be that we're going to be talking about. If we do severe weather coverage tomorrow, you're going to be talking about severe warnings from northern Minnesota and Wisconsin all the way down into central Texas. So that's just kind of giving you guys an idea of really who's what areas are in play for severe weather tomorrow. But if we take a look at our wind threat, you can see it's a 30% non-hatched, so that means we have a 30% chance of seeing damaging winds within 25 miles of a given location. That is including portions of central and southern Minnesota into northern and northern Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan. So that does include Minneapolis there, St. Paul, Green Bay, Rochester, and Bloomington, Minnesota there. So Again, pretty large area under the gun for severe weather when you're talking in terms of a wind threat, but that 15% threat in that yellow shade extends all the way from the lower Midwest down through the Central Plains into portions of northern Texas. So again, that covers all of your moderate, enhanced, and slight risk areas. And then finally, you can see we have that 5% wind threat for those surrounding areas in the brown shade. And then finally, we do look at our damaging hail threat here. But you can see we do have a 30% hatch threat extending all the way from pretty much all of Wisconsin into portions of southern and central Minnesota down into portions of Iowa and northern Missouri there. So again, this is a pretty significant threat that we're seeing for damaging large hail. We're talking about hail likely of 2 inches or larger in diameter there within 25 miles of a given location. But you can see we also do have a 15% hatch threat extending all the way back down here into northern Texas, and then a 5% for those surrounding areas. So again, big, large area currently under the gun for severe weather. Tomorrow, as we're expecting that significant severe weather outbreak to play out there with all hazards on the table. So we get into the breakdown of tomorrow's event. We take a look at the HRRR here. This is the overnight run. You can see that your dew points, already by the morning hours are on the rise here. You can see dew points are already getting up into the lower to mid 60s across portions of the lower Midwest already by Monday morning, and you can see as we get into the afternoon hours of Monday, these dew points continue to rise, and we're seeing dew points getting into the upper 60s and even close to the lower 70s for some of these areas. So you can just see how wide open and moist this warm sector is going to be, and you can see even all the way back down here into portions of eastern Kansas, dew points getting above 70. So when you wake up tomorrow morning and you go outside, you will notice how hot and muggy it's going to feel out there. Just very, very sticky and very, very, moist conditions. But this is a wide open warm sector that you really don't want to mess with. So this is one of those days and, environments that will be supportive of, having any of these showers or thunderstorms in this area to erupt and just become very, very strong there. So that's why we're concerned about, all hazards there with that big time severe weather threat. And you can see really the only thing that's able to, push these dew points off to the east is obviously that eventual line of storms that will produce damaging winds. But, this is a very large and wide open warm sector here, which again, we're concerned that any discrete cells could take advantage of this and end up getting very, very strong there, allowing the threats of damaging large hail, strong tornadoes, and, obviously those damaging winds likely up to 80 miles per hour. So again, you can see, one more time, just very, very moist conditions with dew points in the mid to upper 60s. So we move on here to your 0 to 6 kilometer shear here. So we're going to be taking a look at your wind shear, your kinematics. This is going to show us which areas are going to be supportive of these storms developing, low-level rotation and potentially even enhancing that tornado threat. So you can see as we get into, again, the evening to overnight hours of tomorrow into tomorrow night, you can see, throughout, most of the levels of the atmosphere, in, the lower levels to the mid-levels, we do have quite a bit of shear here ranging from about 30 to 60 knots and even up to 70 knots in some areas, where we see that linear mode of severe weather come in. So again, if we do get those discrete cells as they move into portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, you can see we have shear from the surface to the 6 kilometers in the atmosphere. You can see that we have shear above 50 knots, which again is going to be very supportive of allowing that rotation to develop within those supercells. And again, that's just only going to help increase that tornado threat. So off your kinematics, definitely a supportive environment there for strong tornadoes. And as these storms congeal into that line and you get that more linear kind of QLCS storm mode into the early morning hours of Tuesday, you can see along this line, again, you're going to have very, very strong shear, likely up to 60, 70, maybe even 80 knots, which even, enhances the tornado threat even more because you're going to have embedded tornadoes within this line, and some of those could definitely be strong to potentially intense there as well. So that's why we're worried about, an all-night tornado threat for this area. as we go from Monday night into early Tuesday morning, and then finally that trough continues to move off to the east and out of the region. So very, very strong low to mid-level shear, as well as very, very moist conditions. That's always a red flag for weather forecasting whenever you see those two parameters overlapping in the same area there. So if we take a look at the HRRR, we look at our cape levels here. This is going to show us our instability and kind of how, juiced up the atmosphere is. So I don't know what's going on here with my thing, but I hate to do this on the fly, but we're gonna set this up really quick. So we're gonna be using the HRRR here again. We're gonna be taking a look at our surface-based cape. We're gonna be looking at the 0Z HRRR. So if we take a look at what we've got as of right now, you can see left over from today's event, we have a lot of cape out there in the portions of the central plains, but watch as how quickly the environment, in the atmosphere recovers from the leftover convection from today. You can see as we get into tomorrow morning and afternoon, cape levels are already on the rise out here in the portions of Iowa and Minnesota, with, you can see cape levels well above 3,000 joules per kilograms, which usually we say that about 1,000 joules per kilograms of cape is supportive of severe thunderstorms. But look how big this area is here of at least 2,000 joules per kilograms of cape. You're seeing just a ton of warm, unstable air moving in from the south here, and if you do get, breaks in the clouds and you do get sunny skies, you may think that that's a sign that better weather's coming, but that just means that you're going to get more, sunlight and more heating underneath those clouds, which will just enable those showers to erupt and become dangerous, severe thunderstorms. But you can see, in the Des Moines area, we're already getting to about 3,500 joules per kilograms of cape. In Minneapolis, we're already getting above 2,000 joules per kilograms. And you can see as these, as these storms continue to progress off to the east, Cedar Rapids, you're already about, around 200 joules per kilogram. But I just want to show you how extensive this area is of, high cape levels. I mean, if you're talking about your southern threat here back into Oklahoma and Texas, look how high these cape levels are. I mean, you're talking about over 4,000 joules per kilograms of cape. So this kind of just shows you how wide open this monster warm sector is going to be, because you're going to have very, very high instability in all of these areas here, which is just going to enable these thunderstorms to become explosive in nature, and they're going to start to drop big-time hail, produce very strong to damaging winds, and obviously bring that threat of seeing strong to intense tornadoes. And you can see those cape levels do move off to the east there as those storms continue moving with that trough. So again, we just looked at shear, we just looked at dew points and instability, and all of those levels seem to be very, very high. So we now look at the significant tornado parameter, which basically the HRRR takes all of what we just talked about earlier and gives us kind of a map here or a simulation of where we could see the best environment for strong to potentially intense tornadoes. And you can see as we get into the afternoon hours, look how potent this environment is. When you're seeing STP values getting up to about a 5 and then maxing out here at around 8.5 on the STP. So again, this is showing us how primed this environment is going to be for potentially strong to intense tornadoes here. And we take a sounding from, this is southern Mississippi, or southern Minnesota. But you can see very contaminated sounding there. But you get the idea, just a huge chunk of the lower Midwest here seeing maxed out STP values. Anywhere where we see over a 4 or a 5, that's when we're getting into a, a very dangerously high kind of, level there of STP values. That's where we really get a large signal from the HRRR, like, yeah, this environment is going to be primed. So if you take a look at this sounding that we just pulled, this is from northern Iowa and southern Minnesota, the border there. You can see our hodograph is very, very elongated and very, very, broad. So that means that we're going to see very, very strong low-level rotation, again, almost at 50 knots there in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So very, very strong low-level shear off that hodograph. What we can read from that, you see our possible hazard type is a tornado. We have our storm slinky turned at 79 degrees, so very significant kinematics from the sounding here. You can see our effective layer STP is at a 9, so almost maxed out here from the effective layer. on the HRRR, but if you look at your SKU-T showing us your temperature and your dew points as you go up into the atmosphere, you can see this significant drop-off in dew points as soon as you get into the 700 to 500 millibar layer of the atmosphere. This is about the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere. You can see a huge decrease in dew points, and what we look for when we're talking about a large hail threat is a big, sharp, steep drop-off in dew points right in this exact layer of the atmosphere. So when we're seeing this on a sounding, in this case we are, that means that we're seeing a very significant hail threat because the atmosphere is very, very dry in the mid to lower levels. So this SKU-T is showing us that we're not only going to have a significant tornado threat, but also that hail threat is likely going to be very, very big. So significant classic supercells are certainly going to be possible in this area. But if you take a look at your surface-based CAPE, you can see it is over 3,000 joules per kilogram. So again, that's going to be showing us how, unstable the atmosphere is going to be. And on our significant hail analogs, you can see it correlates back to us from the SKU-T, where we do have a significant hail analogs of over softball size hail. So again, that is a very, very concerning and significant sounding there taken from northern Iowa. So really, anywhere shaded in this red, this orange, or this purple, or maybe even that tan shade, that's where you have the chance of seeing significant, long tracks, strong, and potentially even intense tornadoes as you go into the afternoon hours of tomorrow. So now that we've looked at all of our parameters and just kind of broken down the entire setup for tomorrow's event, we now look at the HRRR here for your precipitation, and you might notice, where are all the cells? Well, the HRRR is always known for underconvecting whenever we have a dry line setup, which basically means that if you get a dry line, you get a very steep drop-off in dew points between one area and another, and it kind of looks like a line, if that makes sense. And so that's what we're seeing in this event, and the HRRR has been known for underconvecting these kind of events, which basically means that it doesn't show enough supercell and thunderstorm development when we do kind of forecast for these events. And that's exactly what we see here, where we only get this squall line to form here, this QLCS we were talking about earlier, presenting that damaging wind threat across portions of southern Minnesota and Iowa. Now, yes, this could definitely present the threat of strong to intense tornadoes with those embedded areas of rotation, but you're looking for those discrete supercells that we're watching for, that really strong and, big-time tornado threat, and you look for them, and you just don't see them. And this is a good reason of why we're still concerned, because the HRRR not showing any supercells a couple runs in a row with this classic dryline setup, because we know that the HRRR always struggles with forecasting for these setups, that shows us that we likely will see those discrete supercells, and that it's just the HRRR underconvecting there. And so this kind of gives us a classic look at the HRRR, again, not showing enough convection and not showing enough supercell development, and how we really could have a ton of, raging, strong supercells producing big-time tornadoes and very large to damaging hail in this portion of the Midwest. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, make sure you stay safe out there. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. Will this be upgraded to a high risk? Probably not, but I definitely would not rule it out. Because again, just because you don't see storms in this area doesn't mean you're not going to see any at all. Because like I said, the HRRR is known for being a model that underconvects in these type of events. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but believe me when I say that in these events, HRRR is known for not showing enough thunderstorms, therefore not showing, concerning kind of hour-by-hour outlook on this particular run. But we looked at the environment, we looked at the storm, the STP, we looked at the photographs and the soundings there. All of those parameters that we looked at were very, very concerning, kind of overlapping the same region here where we do have that moderate and enhanced risk. So that shows us which areas need to be concerned and which areas are really under the gun for the potential of strong to intense tornadoes, damaging winds, and very, very large hail. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.